My homily for the first Sunday in Lent, the 9th of March, 2025. We begin Lent, as always, by recalling Jesus' 40 days in the desert and his temptations, for they are the inspiration of this season of Lent. Jesus was preparing for his ministry that would culminate in his saving death and resurrection. We are preparing ourselves to celebrate his saving death and resurrection in Holy Week and Easter, the central celebration of the Church's year. Jesus' temptation should encourage us. Though we are not as successful as him in resisting temptation, we know that he is in solidarity with us and that he gives us help in our struggle with sin. Firstly, we need to be clear that temptation isn't sin. It's just thoughts coming into our mind. Our minds are very powerful and they keep throwing things at us. But such things only become sinful when we go with them and then allow them to lead us into sinful acts. Secondly, we can't resist sin by our own efforts. I can resist anything except temptation, as Oscar Wilde said. Only the grace of God can keep us from sin. Only prayer and the sacraments can help us resist the law of sin, especially the sacrament of reconciliation. So we must keep praying and keep close to God. Jesus was hungry and vulnerable after 40 days in the desert and was tempted by the devil to use his power to satisfy his own appetite. That's the classic temptation, using power to do something that is unnecessary just to satisfy ourselves. Man does not live by bread alone, said Jesus. We are far more than our bodily appetites. That's why it's good at times to fast and do without, so that we can learn to control them rather than be controlled by them. Then Jesus is confronted with more classic temptations, to seize and use power for your own ends, and to test God rather than trust him. Note how the devil uses Scripture in his temptation of Jesus. Scripture, like all earthly things, can be abused when taken out of context. We have to keep in mind the golden thread of God's love running through it. That should never be contradicted by any use of Scripture. We need to call on Jesus when we are tempted, for he knows what we are going through. The saints too can help us, for they got through temptation in the end, despite a few falls en route. I personally find them very helpful, for there are a few saints, like St. Augustine, who got up to all kinds of things before he finally followed Jesus.